Thank you, James. Pleasure.
Well, we're very lucky to be able to be here in this space. It takes a lot of effort by many people to keep a small center like this going. There are all kinds of practical issues that need to be attended to, concerns about the finance and so on. And especially when you have an organization where the main teacher dies, there's always lots of issues about how to continue. So it's always good to see people collaborating and finding a way forward. As we've looked before, nobody knows what the future is going to be. The past is not a good indicator of the future. So when we stay present, we try to find pathways that open up in the moments of possibility. That's probably our best way. So I'm very glad to be here. Okay, let's start with just a little sitting. Okay. The Tibetan Buddhist traditions are very, very rich with many kinds of practice. Styles of practice are often associated with four main modes. One is very elaborated, the next is a little elaborated, then hardly elaborated, and not at all elaborated. And what we're doing when we're just sitting is not at all elaborated. Everything that you find in the more elaborated practices is within the non-elaboration. So if you were doing a more elaborated practice, you would start with refuge and bodhisattva vow. You would consciously remember all sentient beings, and at the end you formally dedicate merit. When you sit in an open way, there is no boundary. All sentient beings are within the mind. So the openness of the mind is the immediacy of connectivity, of inclusion. And so in Dzogchen, because everything is already in, it's already in. So if we say, please come into the room, please come into the room, and say, hey, I'm in the room. No, please come into the room. So part is you have to trust everything is already within the mind of the Buddha. Everything is within the one great Tigli. So it's very important what we looked at yesterday about the nature of the ground. The ground is the most fundamental, basic aspect, which is truly the answer to everything. So in the transmission, in the Nyingma system, you have 9 levels of transmission. Usually we're concerned primarily with the first 3. The first is the direct transmission of the Buddha's mind, in which when we relax into the state of openness, our mind is not different from the mind of any Buddha. The Buddhas don't have more of anything than we have. And what they have is less of the crap that we have. So when you see that the crap is not intrinsic to who you are, then your mind is not different from the Buddha. The second level of transmission is the symbolic transmission of the wise, the Vidyadharas, the great yogis. And this word da, symbol, it indicates things like a mudra, a gesture, a tone of voice. It could be a formal symbol like a peacock feather, crystal, a mirror, and so on. If you take up a symbol and you think about it, then you think, oh yeah, the mirror is pointing to the nature of clarity. So the image of the crystal points out how the mind is clear. So it is referential, it is representational. This is useful, but it's very dualistic. The real transmission of the Vidyadharas is everything which arises is the symbol or the presence of the radiance of the mind. So when you're sitting in the practice and you have all kind of thoughts and feelings and sensations, we often interpret them. We take them to mean something. So you might be aware that you have pain in your back, and you might think, oh, I need to get massage, or I need to get more exercise. Or you have a practical thought, and you think, oh, I have to remember to send an email when I get home. But we take our thoughts to be referential about something. This is to misunderstand the nature of thought. Thought is the radiance of the mind. Sensation is the radiance of the mind. So the second level of transmission is to see directly there is no other ground than the open source, which is empty. And everything which arises is empty. But it's not empty, emptied out empty. It is empty of display. So that's why we have the notion of illusion. A mirage, a rainbow. The rainbow is there. What is the rainbow symbolizing? If you want it to symbolize something, you're already into it is referring to something else. The rainbow is the showing of the brightness of the sky. Your depression, your anxiety, your unresolved issues about your mum or your dad, all the neurotic formations that you have, which appear to be something to think about, if you sit with them, arise and they pass. Rangsha, self-arising, just appearing in like magic, in the manner of a dream, and self-liberating. They're gone. They arise and they pass. They arise and they pass. When you take them to be referential, when you think, oh shit, I have to think more about that, I have to work on that, that's really important, then you yourself are chopping up the world, cutting it into pieces, and then arranging it in a hierarchy. Good thoughts, bad thoughts, helpful thoughts, unhelpful thoughts. Your mind is very, very busy. So the meaning of the transmission is, the first level of the transmission is like Garab Dorji's first statement. Be with how it is. That's the essential point of Garab Dorji's first statement. It's like open to how it is. The second is don't mess about with how it is. Don't get into doubt. Don't think about it. Don't process it. Don't cook it. Stay with how it is in all circumstances. And the third point of Garab Dorji is, as you move out into the world, there's many kind of turbulences. Don't get pulled into over-identification with the forms of energy, because they will start very quickly to seal themselves, and then you'll be in a world of entities, of things which are defined, as we looked before, by their mutual rejection. If it's this, it's not that. Everything is the energy of the ground. The third level of the transmission is language arising. So, when I'm sharing this Dharma with you, the breath comes out of the lungs. It goes through the voice box and it comes out as vibration. This is sound. You then have some reception of this with minimal or great interpretation, resonance, elaboration. All of that is the energy of the ground. If you think I'm talking about something, then that's very sad. I'm talking about nothing. I am nothing talking about nothing. But this is a lovely nothing. This is not a nihilistic nothing. It's not nothing at all. It's the play of movement. You know, if you're painting, if you have some paper or canvas and you make a mark, it looks like, on one point, a limitation. You've now defiled the infinite potential of the empty canvas. The mark beckons other marks and you start producing an image. What has happened? Gestures have been made. This is an energetic conversation. So there is the energetic conversation of making, which requires the body to move, to look at the paints you have, to select a brush or a knife, and movement. And then you have the energetic relation of observing, of being the recipient of it. You receive the colors. So you make marks, you receive marks. You make marks, you receive marks. Nothing is established except the aesthetic moment of the vitality of the senses. So this is the meaning of the third level of transmission through language. It's called the transmission through the ear hole of ordinary people, which could make it seem quite kind of heavy and dull. The key thing is when you hear, I hear sound. You can't catch sound. I see light. You can't catch light. You run your finger down your arm. Sensation. There, uncatchable. This is why sensation is important in some kinds of yoga practice, because it is immediately manifest and you can't catch it. Everything is uncatchable. So this is the real meaning of these three transmissions. So when we're doing the practice, the important thing is to be clear about where we start from. If you start from the idea of yourself and the idea of Buddhism and the idea of liberation, then you're already in a constructive system. You have something to think about. You know why you're going to do the practice. The practice becomes a means to an end. I'm here in samsara, I'm full of shit, I want to get free of that, so I'm going to apply this method, this antidote, and that will bring me somewhere else. A lot of Dharma is set out in this way. This is not the view of Dzogchen. We don't start from the thought. We always have to start from the ground, which is why yesterday I spent a lot of time exploring the ground. And that's an invitation for you to find yourself in the openness of the ground. The openness of the ground is always there. It's the basis of everything you have. Everything you see, hear, think, every memory. It's not far away. But so you have to relax into the ground. The ground is the starting point. And then when you're sitting, the thoughts and feelings that arise are the radiance of the ground. Now, because the ground is not like the earth, it's not located somewhere and you then stand in relation to the ground. The ground has no location. It is everywhere. It's the basis of everything. So it's not about coming from A to B. When a thought arises, it's not coming from a thought factory someplace. It manifests immediately. It's there and not there. Sensation there and not there. And it's there in the place of its emergence. Because the mind, the openness of the ground, is fertile in all directions. It's not some special core of the point of generation. So, it's coming from me. It comes from everywhere. All the time. This is the luminous vitality of the sphere of revelation of the mind. In the tradition, if you get into reading it and studying, and if you want to come to the Dzogchen Center here, you can learn many ways of relating to energy. The basic thing is to see all energy comes from the ground. This is so important. That's why we go back to this basic thing. There is one ground or source or openness in two paths. The path of ignorance doesn't make bad things. It doesn't make any things. There are no things. It's an illusion. When you don't see that an illusion is an illusion, you are deluded. And when you're deluded and you believe that your delusion is an accurate description of the world, you find yourself in endless confusion. That's how that works. So, trying to sort out samsara, trying to sort your life out, doesn't really take you anywhere. It helps a little bit. But the main factor is to see my confusion arises because I take my life too seriously. I am unplayful. The mind is very playful. Subject and object are dancing together. Why? For no purpose at all. What is the meaning of life? It's meaningless. Meaning is a cul-de-sac. If you look for meaning, it's the royal road to stupidity. We are concerned with aesthetics, with beauty, with the immediacy of the revelation, which is complete in itself. So again, there's another aspect of Dzogchen, the great completion, the immediacy of this moment, which is just itself, as is. But what's it for? It's not for anything. It is the play of the mind. This is called a ropa, or in India it's called the ropa. Is like a lila, like a play. So we know the Krishna lila, the dance of Krishna. He plays his flute, the gopis, the cowgirls, they dance, they become completely dazzled by his beauty, and then mayhem occurs. But it's play. Nothing has happened. Since you were born, nothing has happened. You've had good times and bad times. When you remember the good times and the bad times, what are you remembering? Nothing. It's gone. The past is gone. You're haunted by ghosts. Neurosis is ghost territory. We should dissolve the profession of psychotherapy. I can say this because I'm retiring. I don't need the dosh. We need exorcism. And actually, Dzogchen is the perfect path of exorcism because we offer nothing to the demons. Nothing. Because we see the demon is the play of the mind. If you have persecutory thoughts, if you have self-attacking thoughts, if you have lonely, confused thoughts, whatever kind of thoughts you have, if you take these thoughts as referring to yourself, now you have an internal dualism. I feel bad about what I did. I wish I hadn't done that. So you're creating a kind of echo chamber. You imagine you go into a cave. So inside your mind, you're echoing and vibrating across. And as your thought reverberates back to you, it reinforces the need to think more because you have to make sense and sort it out. Why is my dad an arsehole? Why? Why is a stupid question? How is he an arsehole? That's more useful because there you see a pattern of energetic formation. And if you see how it is, then you find a way through. It's like when you go for a walk in the country and you want to walk into a field and they have barbed wire fence. You have to go through. So you have to look, what's the height of the barbed wire? How long are your legs? If you have long legs, you can step over the fence. If your legs are not so long, you have to try to get through it. Now, if you're fat like me, that's more difficult. So you might have to try to roll on the ground underneath. But that's called working with circumstances. So if your dad is like this, your mom is like that, your lover is like that, you are like this, you're working with how it is. How? That means you're staying close to the emergence of this immediate topology, this immediate shaping. So whatever is arising in the mind is not the enemy. We are not vulnerable people to be attacked. There is non-duality. As soon as you slip into duality, subject and object is thwarting the intention of the subject is trying to get object lined up the way it wants. So a very, very unhappy marriage. To stay fresh and see how things are arising. in Tantra, we use the energy of devotion to bring the felt presence of the deity. And with mantra, different kinds of visualization, you make an energetic bridge between the deity and yourself. Light is flowing from the deity into you, purifying you, and so on. And then the deity, the pure subject, purifying you, the bad object, and you, the purified bad object, who is now a subject, so they start to come together. And you have the intersubjective and the dissolving. So this Yuganada or Zungjuk, the merging of subject, or subject and object, or object and object, all Tantra is based on that. So when you bring subject and object together, they go into a small point, a tiny little bindu, a little tigli, which then dissolves in space. You sit in space, then out of the space, sounds, sensations, so on arise. If you trust the direct immediacy, which is the natural initiation of the mind to the mind, then whatever is arising at that point is the mind. So you arise, that's why I say now everything is the mandala of the deity, because it has no other source but that openness. In Dzogchen we don't do this. You can do it as well, it's not bad, it's just this is a different style. These are all stylistic. Some styles suit some people more than others, or at different times in your life you have a different style, or different moods in yourself. You could have a main kind of practice, but sometimes it's not going to work because you're not available in that particular nuanced way. So the basic practice in Dzogchen is the Guru Yoga. Guru Yoga means Guru is the mind itself. Guru is primordial Samantabhadra, the presence of the non-separation of these three aspects we looked at yesterday, the openness, the arising complexion, the expression. This is the truth of our existence. And we experience this in front of us. I might think that's very dualistic, but it's not about dualism, it's about diversity as non-separation, as non-fragmentation. Yoga, in the Tibetan translation, Nal Jor. Nal means relaxed, at ease, intrinsic, just no need to do anything. And Jorwa means to join. So it means a kind of being at ease. So being at ease with the Buddha, that's really what Guru Yoga means. It means you're not humble and hoping, and you're not complacent, oh yes, you are, oh. And in that oh of opening, you become open to the openness that's there. So we do the practice, it's quite simple. And we mention in the space in front of us a white letter R, which is a symbol of emptiness. When they say symbol here, it's more like this is the presence of emptiness. This is one of the many ways that emptiness shows itself. Emptiness also shows itself as dog shit in motor cars, but we use the letter R. You could use a Volvo as well. This is true. Because once you start saying the letter R is special and dog shit is not special, you are in duality and you are insulting the Buddha. Everything is emptiness. But for our purposes, because this is a tradition, we use the letter R. And around that is the rainbow light of 5 colors. Though these 5 colors have never been found in any rainbow. White, red, blue, yellow, and green. They express the 5 wisdoms, the 5 elements, the 5 poisons. All the potential of samsara and nirvana is hovering or radiating from this letter R. So R is like the ground. R is Kada, the primordial purity, and these 5 colors, this is Shundrup, the potential of emergence. This we imagine in front of us. We let the R not so big, maybe this kind of size. Usually a couple of arms length, but it's just in the sky. Some people can visualize very easily, some people not at all. It doesn't matter. The main thing is the feeling tone. Oh, Buddha is here. Then we make the sound of ah 3 times. And ah is like the easiest form of spring cleaning. Ah is like, imagine these poor people in Yorkshire with the river flooding and all the shit comes into their house. But this is a very pure flood. You make the sound of ah, everything is washed out. Your past, your future, your thoughts, every structure on which you've been basing your existence, all the points of reference that would turn you back onto yourself. I am the one who is thinking. I am the one who is doing the practice. The sound of ah, wash that out. So we're just sitting with ah. So now we experience sky here, and when we make this third sound of ah, the ah in front of us just dissolves in the sky like a fine cloud or a rainbow, and then it's open. So openness of the room, openness of our presence. It's not that my mind is here and the object is there. Everything is the mind, and the mind is empty. But the thing about having a body is that the body is sensation. And it's very, very important to get to know what is sensation in the body. Because if you misunderstand sensation, it takes you into reification. So, oh, something's happening. Oh, what does this mean? Oh, ow. We live as interpretive creatures, and interpretation is the basis of solidification. Because you know that in school, when bullying starts and somebody starts to say to someone, oh, you're small like a midget. And then other people say, you're small like a midget. And then gradually people call him, hey, midget, come over here. This projection of an identification starts almost to be absorbed into that person. And it becomes then, as it were, their true identity or the truth of who they are, at least in the school playground. I'm sure we've all got a lot of knowledge of that kind of bullying. But this is what we do in the mind as well. So when a sensation arises, when we looked yesterday at these 4 levels of ignorance, the 3rd level was the naming, the construing, the integration of the momentary phenomena into the semiotic web, layering it, producing more density, more gravitas. You have to see, oh, that is energy, that is process, that is activity. So when I think, oh, my back is sore, that thought seems to be describing something which is already there, my back. But the thought, my back, is the midwife of your back. Until you had the thought, my back is sore, you didn't have a back. You're sitting here just now. How many people are aware of their feet? Feet are just there. And then something happens. Oh, something wrong with my foot. So the body is not some coherent shape. We are pulsing in and out according to the vagaries, the happenstance of the directionality of attention. When you think of something, attention is what feeds solidification into the object. So where does the attention come from? This is the energy of the mind. And the more you see everything is emerging from the ground, then you can have fully focused attention without solidification, without reification. And therefore, you have attention without the accumulation of ideas, opinions, liking and not liking. So this is vital for the practice. Always stay in the moment. We err when we go into the past and into the future, because these are the sites of accumulation. In the fresh present moment, there is only this, and the next moment only this, the next moment only this. Non-cumulative and yet complete. There is neither lack nor excess in this moment. But once you step outside that and you think about what happened, or you think about what you would like to happen, then you're in the field of lack and excess. Something has to be done. Get rid of the things I don't like, add more of the things I do like. And then you're back in the ego's dualistic manipulation. Okay? So that's why, very simply, we sit in a relaxed way. You want your skeleton to be carrying your weight so that the muscles are very relaxed. We want to have a nice, soft plastic body that can play. Breathing is normal. Gaze is open. And imagining this letter R with the light. And then we make the sound and we connect. We are always connected. What we're doing is connecting inside the already connected. But because we have forgotten that everything is already connected, we have to do the connection. So we're doing something artificial in order to remind ourselves of the unartificial. So when we make the sound of R, you want it to arise just very easily, deeply through you. The whole of you is just relaxing, open and empty. Open and empty. Okay. So as I said yesterday, when we do this kind of practice, you want to do it for a short time, 5 minutes, even 2 minutes, and then take a little break and you do it again and you do it again, because the relaxation, the releasing gives you the openness, but you have many karmic traits which will again gather around you. And this gathering around you can appear in the form of vultures, which is samsara, or dakinis, which is nirvana. You can tear yourself to pieces. So when you're sitting in the practice and your body has sensation, stay present. Don't push it away, don't merge into it. Stay with whatever is happening. And then you see, the body is flow. The body is not a thing. There are no things. There is the flow of experience. So, for example, you're sitting here, you look at the wall. You think the wall is hard. That's a thought. When you look at the wall, what is happening is light is going onto the wall and coming from the wall into your eyes. Light is flowing. Light doesn't stop. Light has to move. Sound has to move. What you are living in is a world of light, a world of sound, a world of sensation. Everything is moving. Stillness is the unchanging openness of the mind. Movement is everything else. And between these two, there are no things. There is not one thing. Not one thing has ever been born. To believe in things is to be deluded. The reason we have the idea of illusion is when you see the mirage on the road, you think this is water, but it's not water. Thingness, substantiality, separated identities, things having their own ground, their own basis, their own inherent existence, this is illusion. It appears to be that way due to causes and conditions operating together. But it's not true. We are extremely capable to believe things which are not true. Without that, there would be no theater, there would be no novels. We believe in Mickey Mouse, we believe in Ice Age. There are so many incredible cartoon movies now, and when you start to watch them, wow, there's a mammoth, and the mammoth's talking and it's having a difficult relationship. And you believe it. You believe it. It's not true, you believe it. Now, the Buddha didn't have access to cartoons, so the Buddha's talking about mirages and rainbows, but we have access to these, we see it. I get taken in. I surrender disbelief. I don't stay in my critical, controlling, judging position because I want to be carried away. We go to the movies to be carried into something. You read a novel for the immersive experience. Now when you catch yourself doing that, you say, this is the same as meditation. This is how my meditation goes wrong, because some potential arises in the mind and I merge into it. And I want to merge into it in the same way I want to merge into the movie. Why? Because it extends myself. So, the Russian theorist Mikhail Bakhtin wrote a lot about the novelization which was necessary to educate the peasantry of Russia. He said when people grow up in a village and they only have their very limited social context where they know who is the kulak, the landowner, and so on, and they're tightly in their gender roles and so on, it's very difficult for them to open to the new world, to the modern world. So he said, if you help people to become literate and then they can read novels, they start to be populated by the characters of the novels. So that, you know, if you read Dostoevsky, Raskolnikov will stay with you till you die. There is something about these scenes, the moods, which infects you. All of us are inhabited by many different kinds of characters. So if you imagine your life is a huge piece of cloth, and you're trying to hold this up to give yourself some breathing space, when you have more characters moving inside you, it's like little tent poles. Each of them, they open up a space, because now you have an internal conversation, and you know, of course we do it, you know, what might my teacher think, or what might my parents think, but then we can also think, what would Madame Bovary do? Madame Bovary is in an unhappy marriage, and she has some choices to make. So the novel is quite useful, because it helps you to think, what is an ethical choice? What is a self-destructive impulse? Then we observe these things in ourselves. This is one of the functions of art, not to tell us the truth about something else, but to feel the resonances of possibility. And then we see, oh, I am multiple. And the more multiple you are, the more useful you are. Because, as we know, the Buddha shows compassion by manifesting in many different ways. We have the 8 forms of Padmasambhava, the 21 forms of Tara. You have the 1,000 forms of yourself. You in a good mood, a bad mood, a generous mood, a sexy mood, all kind of modalities arise with an ambience and a connectivity or disconnection. We know this. But it's to see all these aspects of yourself are the play of the potential of the unborn ground. So when we're doing the practice and we're sitting, there's sensation. This is the mind. This is the source. There is no other source. some of the places I teach near church, and you get big church bells banging away all the time. And then, of course, we have the concept, the reverberation is coming from the church tower where the bell is. That's a thought. The sound is arising from the mind. Everything is arising in the mind. You see a plane going across the sky. That's a concept, that's an interpretation. There is a movement of color and shape in the sky. Oh, this is movement. So always stay with movement. Movement very gently, very softly thins out the solidification that can come with the power of ignorance, the delusion of believing that there are truly existing separate entities. So this is our work, to relax and release, relax and release. We're not constructing, we're allowing the falling away of what is always falling away. We're not interfering with the process of the self-liberation of all phenomena as they arise and pass. Then, especially if you're at home, you do the practice and then you get up. You might need to make a phone call, have a pee, make a coffee, whatever it is, it's always, who is doing this? You have a long history of having a self-referential commentary on your activity. I am the one who's doing it. I am the doer of the deed. Huh? No. You are the flow, the luminous flow of the energy of the ground, and that is making the coffee. And the kettle is the energy of the ground arising object side. You are the energy of the ground arising subject side, and subject and object are in an interplay. You put your shoes on, put your coat on, open the door, go out, lock the door. Movement. There's nothing but movement. Ceaseless movement. Shoulders, hips, knees, moving, perception, recollection. Shit, I have to go back. Now I get my little travel card, and now I'm okay. That's a movement. The thought arises, oh, going on the tube, need that. So movement, movement. It's all movement. You think, oh, why did I forget that? That's a thought. The thought's a movement. Who is it referring to? Who is the stupid one who forgot the travel card? No one. When you blame yourself, there's no self to blame. It's ridiculous. The self you blame is born in the moment that you blame yourself. That is to say, the negative comment is not referring to a self-existing, truly enduring, existing self. There is no such thing. But the self, the idea of the self, the image will be constellated in the moment of your taking it to be there. This takes us back to what we looked at yesterday in the 4 levels of ignorance. The first level, which is Dagni Chikpo. Remember that there's a somethingness, this solitary somethingness. So you move out of the flat. A thought arises, I need my travel card. You go back, you pick it up, you go out. Seamless process. But onto that, you stamp this evaluation, this judgment. How could I have forgotten? God, I'm going to be late now. You feel this kind of condensation, this densification that's occurring, because now you are someone who is late. And that is so sticky. It's as if you poured honey all over yourself. And these stray thoughts come and stick themselves to you. Because now you're worried, and I'm always going to be late, and they're going to think I'm... You are making yourself. This is self-production. There is no self. But it is as if there is a self. The as if has 2 aspects. If you recognize the as if, it's the weird, playful energy of the ground. So that's the play of awareness. This is Rigpitsel or Rolpa or Dang. There are many forms of thinking about the energy of Dzogchen in Dzogchen. If you don't recognize what it is, then these thoughts compact you. Like in some countries, they take the earth and they frame it between bits of wood, and then people get on top and they do a stomping dance to compress the earth to make a wall. You can do that in the high parts of Nepal because the rainfall is very small. But the earth is just these little granules of dust. But compacted, it takes on a kind of solidity. So we're the same, moment by moment. It's just like dust particles, but you kind of gather them and whack them and whack them and whack them and make a conclusion. I am like this. I always do this. Or my boss is horrible. She's always speaking to me in this way. Concretization in the negative sense of something which, once it sets, is not moving. The basis for the concretization of the boss is the concrete experience of the boss, that is to say, the precise, oh, my boss is unkind. They're entitled to be unkind. Human resources don't really care. We know that. So they can be unkind. You want to leave early, they don't let you. Okay, they are unkind. What is that? It is activity. It's a transactional activity. Would it be okay if I leave at 6 o'clock tonight? No, I need you to stay till 7 because it's very important. Not important for me because I need to leave at 6, important for you. But we can't have that conversation because you are very important. So, fuck you. So at that point, it's becoming very, very solid. Now I'm trapped by this bitch. Why is she speaking to me this way? I'm cooking this up. I'm making this solid. All that's happening is a plan, a hope, a mental experience that I wish to extend out into time and space is thwarted. It's blocked. My energy can't go out at 6 to be happy. I now have to stay in till 7 doing things I don't want to do. Okay? So I can do that with resistance, with resentment, or just do it. Needs to be done, I do it. Then I leave at 7 fresh. Or I do it with resentment, cooking inside. Now I'm in a bad mood. Now I go to see my friend. We sit, they give me a glass of wine, and I'm in a bad mood. And they're looking, are you okay, sweetie? You don't look so good tonight. How do you mean I don't look so good? I thought you liked me. Yeah, I do. You know, you look beautiful, but it's going to be one of these evenings. Because of the solidification. So this is what the meditation is for us always to go back to the ground source, which is open and empty, which has no basis at all for accumulation. That's why it's primordial purity. And whenever accumulation arises, we see, oh, this is the play of the mind. This is like a nightmare. It is not truly real, but it appears to be real. The word real means thingness, from the Latin res, which means an entity, something. There are no things. There are appearances. All things are concepts. Everything in the world is only a name put by the mind. Now, this is an unusual way of considering existence. Your mum didn't tell you this, your dad didn't tell you, and none of your school teachers told you. But this is the teaching of the Buddha. This is only names put by the mind. Third level of ignorance. Say, look, oh yeah, I don't like my boss because she is like this. That's me. That's not her. That's me. I'm bringing the density here. Well, people worry about their children because they don't grow up in the way you wanted them to grow up. You had a template, you had an idea of who they should be, how they should be, and so on. And they're not. They are somebody else. So there we start to see, oh, I become upset when my image of the world and the facticity of the world, the phenomena of the world, don't align. There's either too much or too little. So we have desire for more if there's too little, and we have aversion and rejection if there's too much. So then we have the Buddha's teaching. It's very, very precise. Dharma is the most sweet thing in the world. It shows the beauty of everything. I want the world to fit in with me. Now, the world is very big, and we are a pimple on God's arse. We are very, very small. We're not very significant. But we stomp and we have our temper tantrums. So it shouldn't be like this, and why do I have to? This is mental energy. This is thought. I'm doing this to myself. I am torturing myself. Like the Dharma texts say, no one will cause you more trouble than yourself. Nobody can help you more than yourself. That is to say, you have to stay present and aware and see the temptation, see the pulling power of delusion, because it's so familiar and it's pervasive in the culture. When you walk down the street here, what you see is adverts for commodities. People are enjoying themselves by participating in a consumerist economy, the fetishization of the thing. But there are no things. In Tibet, like you can see with some of these pictures, there are people living in caves with not much food, tattered clothes, and they're quite happy because they are giving their attention to the mind itself. They are finding the completion, the zopachempo of their immediate experience. When we don't recognize that open ground, we are in this endless interplay, like being in a pinball machine, echoing and reverberating between subject and object, hopes and fears, me and you. Me, all of these thoughts are the play of the ground. So the ground is the most important. So when we do the practice, relax and open. And of course, the ground is not clear. You have a miasma. You have like a kind of mist or murk which hovers over, because we talk of the swamp of samsara, and in swamps you often get that dark movement with this fata morgana, this deceptive light that takes you into drowning yourself. We don't follow that. We sit open. Gradually the mist will clear. But I don't want it to be there. It shouldn't be there. I need to do something. You need to do nothing. You need to do nothing. You need to trust Garab Dorji was not lying. You need to trust that Samantabhadra is not lying. You need to trust that you are lying. You are bullshitting yourself. You are deceiving yourself by imagining you have enough mastery in yourself to sort it all out. And you've tried, and you've tried, and you've tried, and it hasn't worked. So don't try. Stay relaxed and open and observe. It passes. It passes. It passes. So that's the main focus of the teaching. When you're walking down the street, how is walking? Not who is walking, how is walking. Walking is tense and release. Muscles tense, rise, bend the knee, foot goes down, sway through the hips. You just need to observe for yourself. Walking up the stairs is different from walking down the stairs. Because when you're walking up the stairs, you're pushing against gravity. When you're going down, you have gravity on your side, like having in a plane having a headwind or a tailwind. So if you stay close to the actuality of your experience, moment by moment, it's movement. It's only movement. Unfortunately, we live in a social world where it's polite to delude other people. So people say, how did you sleep? How do you feel? What? They're asking for a conclusion. There is no conclusion. It's always moving, it's always changing. So what they're saying is, sum yourself up. give me something to work with. It's like that in therapy. You get people who come in and blather nothing, shit. And then they say something, oh, now we can get into the work, because now you can hook into something. So, oh, you're not feeling too good. What happened? Has something gone wrong? Drilling some little holes into that person, constructing more of your image of who they are. It's very, very tricky. Very tricky. Therefore, when someone says, how are you? This is sound and emptiness. Just sound and emptiness. How are you? Fine. How's life? Okay. It's not that you want to block them and keep them out, but they are looking for something which is unavailable, which is the totalization of yourself. The word total is a mathematical term. It's a summative term. You add things together and you get to the total. We are beyond totalization. We are creatures of infinity. So I would like to suggest some of the people who translate Dharma books should stop using the word total, because it annoys me. It probably makes them happy, but it annoys me very much. It's completely the wrong word. Completely the wrong word. But we totalize. You totalize when you've got someone's number. You've got a handle on them. You can see what they're about. You got them in a box. Which we don't want to go in that direction, because everything is changing. All phenomena arise due to causes and circumstances. Circumstances change. Some people do a lot of practice when they're young, then they vanish from Dharma. Other people have crazy youth, and then gradually they come into Dharma. We have all kind of pulsations in our life. We are not made in a factory. We are not machines. And therefore, summing people up is an insult. It's an insult. It is as if there is someone there who could be known, who could be apprehended. This is a violence. We should stop violence. We practice ahimsa, non-violence. So we allow people to be as they are. How are they? Well, just stop for a moment. Ask yourself the question, how am I? You can't say. So why do you ask other people impossible questions? Because you can't answer it yourself. As soon as you say, well, how am I? You start to open to this terrain of multiple sensations, memories, thoughts, and so on, and you come into formation. Formation. So, when we looked yesterday at these 5 qualities of the ground, the first is uncompounded, dumache. Du, the verb, means to gather together. Mache means not done, ungathered, uncompounded, uncreated. How are you? It's an invitation for the other person to compound themselves, to form themselves. Now, the motive of how they form themselves could be, they might want to elicit pity from you. They might want to block you. There could be all kind of motives behind it. But somehow, most of us, if somebody asks, how are you? We respond, because we're trained to do that. Why? Not just because we are, in evolutionary terms, biologically in the family of group creatures. We are mammals and we are herd kind of creatures. It's not like that. It's because of duality. Duality is a lie, non-duality is the truth. So duality is always trying to find a rapprochement, a meeting, a packaging, which will then give some relief. So how are you? Well, there's a connectivity. Empathic attunement makes us feel good. Somebody's got some sense of us, some interest in us. But interest in us as a thing. That's the price you pay for love. I really love you. Don't you ever change. I love you just the way you are tonight. It's a very lovely song. just the way you are tonight. Sweetie, I've got high heels on. I know it makes my arse look good, but I can't wear these all the time. 5-inch heels, death. But I love you just the way you look. That's the deal. Be my image of you. I love your image. I'm not my image. Well, then I'm not sure of whether I can be with you if you don't know who you are. Oh, you bastard. You don't know who you are. I don't know who I am. Let's just see what's possible. But how can we make a relationship on the basis of the possible? That's all you've got anyway. That's the truth of life. We don't know how we're going to be. But we want to predict a future, which means we do a violence to ourselves and to others. So when it talks about all-pervading compassion, which is one translation for this third aspect, Dzogchen, which is the expressiveness of awareness, it's the quality of the Nirmanakaya. It's a connectivity which is non-reificatory. We're not turning people into things. How to be close to someone without making a final judgment. Some things can be judged, others can't. I worked some time in a psychosexual problems clinic. It's linked a little bit to the sexually transmitted diseases clinic. And what is very beautiful to see is the doctors are very precise. They're very precise about what's afflicting this set of genitalia, pustules and lesions and God knows what. Very, very precise, but they make no judgment. If you want to have dry fisting, they don't say anything. Good, bad, right, wrong, it's not their issue. Their issue is to say, well, there's quite a lot of tear on the rectum, and this kind of fistula is difficult to heal. Like, it's very beautiful. So they are precise and, if you like, summative about what can actually be diagnosed because it's visible, but they're not making a moral judgment. So that's very interesting, how not to come to a conclusion about the person. People live in all sorts of different ways. Who are we to know what is good or bad or right or wrong? Of course we have our moral readings, but on what basis would we burn people alive for them? We're not Dominicans. We don't want to do that. Leave that to the Vatican. We want to relate to people in an open, clear way. And people are energy, not things. So the story never ends. Story never ends. But we shall end now and have a pause for some tea. Maybe 20-minute break.